Welcome to season 2, The Owner's Seat, formerly the Valisights Podcast, where fitness and wellness owners step out from behind the brand and into the numbers, decisions, and the hard calls it takes to grow. This is the show where we talk cash flow, unit economics, and the messy middle of scaling and being an entrepreneur so you can stay in control of your business instead of letting it run you. Today's guest started as a U.S. Marine, a devil dog, became a data scientist, and is now building one of the most ambitious human performance platforms in the market. Alan, they call him the Train Thompson, is the founder and CEO of Groe Solutions, a B2B SaaS company turning gyms, military units, and health systems into measurable performance engines, combining behavioral science, can't wait to chat about that, machine learning, and community design to drive real outcomes. So we're going to keep it real simple and narrow today. In this episode, we unpack how the Marine Corps leadership under pressure translates into startup execution, what it really takes to raise capital as an early stage veteran founder, grows infrastructure for behavior change, not just dashboards across gyms and the Department of Defense programs, and then the investor pitch from metrics, milestones, and winning as the underdog. Alan, thank you so much. It's so good to have you on the owner seat.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was a great intro, by the way. I'm super pumped right now.
Well, you all are killing it. And sir, I just wanted to say thank you for your service. I have a little bit of experience in what they call Officer Candidate School, OCS, for the Marine Corps. So I have much respect for you. And thank you again for your sacrifices. We appreciate you and your family.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. Well, let's jump right in. What was the precise moment that the Grow idea crystallized for you?
So I was going to open a rock climbing gym, and there wasn't much competition in San Antonio when I first had the idea. I found out some competition was going to be coming in out of state from Houston, and I realized I needed to find a way to really entrench myself as an operator. I came up with a computer vision idea specifically for rock climbing. It came up in a conversation with my buddy Nick, who I climb with. And he asked a ton of questions. At the end of it, he said, "I think I can build that." I said, "That's great. What do you do?" And he has the machine learning, data science background. And we kicked the can around a bit, and we realized he kind of looked into the tech more. I looked into the business side more. I realized it wasn't so much a great fit in a sustainable idea for rock climbing, but I saw like a real need for it, modified a little bit to tweak it into a regular gym setting.
So you
And
were
from
thinking about opening a gym. You're obviously in the rock climbing space. You met a partner. Like many entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you went right after it, you saw a major problem, a major pain point, right? That no one else potentially was trying to solve for. Can you walk us through just how that all transpired and when you decided to pull the trigger and go after it?
yeah, so as I looked into it more and found out the industry benchmarks for gyms having around 60% yearly retention, I was like, that's horrible. Losing half of their new members within 6 months. Uh, as I looked into it more, they just didn't really have a way to sustain engagement with their members as they came through. And that's when I realized we could tweak my original idea to like create a sustained engagement system. And then what really kind of drove me or made me more passionate about it is I was like, if this is successful at scale and we're in all these larger gyms uh, that have 60% retention, but we can get them to 80%, like similar to boutique like
Right.
studios. I mean, that would be about 8 million people per year using the current numbers, staying committed to health and fitness, let alone like what the potential return would be on getting the other 80% into fitness. So I was
Well,
like, man,
there's a massive TAM, right? Total addressable market, right? And we continue to see growth in fitness and in wellness. And I'm sure Grow, I mean, I know you all are narrow and niching in, but I mean, we'll talk military here in a little bit, but what you all do can help all industries, right? And you speak about retention. I think as we continue to see the wellness and fitness space actually shrink their square footage, right? You can only fit so many people in there at a certain price point. Retention is the name of the game, right? So if you think larger square foot, 500, 600 plus members, smaller square foot, we only need 3 to 400. Well, everyone that leaves is going to hurt you even more. So
Hmm.
retention is the name of the game, experience. And I think that's where Grow is helping out, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like the data we track around space and equipment utilization, being able to tie
Oh,
that to,
so good.
yeah, being able to tie that to individual members, where gyms can see. It's almost like a website, right? Like people, you have a website, you get all this analytics on it. You can infer who your customers are, where to go, where to target. But for gyms, it's like all that activity within their space is a black box. They don't.
Right.
There's really nothing informing strategy, customer engagement, uh, floor layout, anything like that. So we can capture that data, turn what was a black box into a bright, shiny diamond.
Amazing. It's funny, I have a couple opportunities. We'll talk offline when it's actually an M&A type of opportunity. So looking to acquire partner, looking to acquire another studio.
Hmm.
However, I can only imagine if we had your DNA within the box, what we could uncover and create a plan to go fix. Because
Yeah.
there are retention issues there, which is leading to some terrible unit economics. Although it's going to be a good deal, but we need to fix it. So that is
Well,
exciting.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, M&A and expansion is the name of the game for the fitness industry, right? So
Absolutely.
you look at the large, it's happening right now. Like private equity is backing large players like Crunch. They're going on an M&A spree. The large established players are going on a M&A spree. Like
Right.
they're the sharks are in the water. They're taking advantage of blood in the water.
They are.
Yeah,
Private equity's all over the place. Well,
yeah.
let me ask you this: honor, courage, commitment. What did the Marine Corps teach you about just the daily life of preparing you to be a founder?
Oh man, it improvise, adapt, overcome is the Marine Corps motto.
Yeah.
You always start the plan, but the plan always goes to crap. So you always pivot and change. And that's definitely the life of a startup entrepreneur. Every day, every week or month or quarter, whatever time frame you're looking at. Like, okay, here's the plan, and then reality just comes in and slaps me in the face, and I have to wake up. But a lot of people, that mental toll of always having to change and realize like your plan didn't work, uh, usually takes a toll on people. But I'm used to it.
And I think as the environment around us moves even faster, your ability to adapt and pivot, iterate, right, offer discernment is so
Mm,
important nowadays. And it's a skill set, right? And I think about my kids and what I want to teach them is just pivot, right? Even if it goes wrong. And actually speaking of that, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs that watch this show will be able to resonate with what some of the things that you post. And we'll get to the communities that you serve and the veteran groups that you're a part of. It's very inspiring. And I can't wait to talk about that. But you posted something that I read recently where you, and I'm paraphrasing this, but you don't choose pain. You choose to move forward with love. And can you translate that on how does that translate to your leadership framework and your philosophy?
so the translation is, I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, I decided to get out of the Marine Corps not out of pain or fear of anything. I decided to get out of the Marine Corps because I had my daughter, and when I looked out over the next 10 years, I was going to sacrifice 7 of her years. So I chose to get out for love, right? And a lot of my major decisions in life are based out of love. Love for my children, love for my family, love for my community, stuff like that. Love for myself, well, whatever.
I think a lot of
That's
people, a lot of the entrepreneurs coming on, a lot of the business owners, what you'll find and what we'll find is they have families too while they're doing this.
mm,
And there's a big place for that and a lot of intention that goes into supporting and providing for their family. So I'm looking forward to those chats and amazing to hear about your daughter and the choices that you made there in the direction you're going. Let me ask you, I mentioned that the world around us is speeding up and you're in tech and data. How do you and how would you recommend people make decisions? What are the rules that they need to create, knowing that at times, because we're moving so fast, the data is incomplete, but we know we got to make that decision fast. What's your rules? What's your philosophy around that?
I mean, kind of similar to what you tell your kids, like just, go make a decision. Uh, Failing does not make you a failure type thing, right? Like have the mentality you're going to get back up. It's not going to kill you unless it could potentially kill you. Then maybe slow down and plan it out a little bit more or stay away from it. But yeah, most decisions are not going to kill you. It's not going to be the end of the world. I think a lot of people are afraid to make decisions not because of the change in ambiguity, but they're afraid of the repercussions that will happen within the organization that they're in. From you mentioned like leadership and stuff for our company, and what I learned in the Marine Corps is to create a culture where it's okay to fail. You fail if you can't get back up. I'm going to pick you up, and we're going to go forward together.
I love it. You hear that, Larry? Man, it's good work for you, Alan. I love it. So there's a lot of people that watch the show, and actually, the owner seat is all about not only sharing the highlights of entrepreneurship and being a founder and business owner, but my goal with this show is to share and have our guests share the messiness. I think entrepreneurship, especially nowadays, has been highlighted to be the shiny, easy thing, but already, as we can hear from Alan and others that you'll hear, it can get messy. It's hard. And so, Alan, I wanted to switch gears into that frame. If you don't mind, over the last year, what's been the hardest punch that you've taken as an entrepreneur? And then I'd love to know, speaking of iteration or pivoting, how'd you counter that? How'd you counter punch it?
Biggest pivot in the last year. Man, that's a good question. 2025. I mean, some pivots aren't necessarily bad pivots. Some pivots could be good pivots.
Right.
Opportunities come knocking. And like us getting involved in healthcare, it's on our long-term roadmap. Uh, but it wasn't on our roadmap for another 2 years. But the opportunity presented itself, and instead of saying no because we're not ready now, we had to pivot to develop to say yes and find a way to make it happen. And I think one of the most important questions is asking yourself how, not like how can you get it done. That's definitely was my mentality in the Marine Corps. That had to be my mentality
Versus
in
I
the Marine
can't.
Corps. Yeah, yeah. So like, okay, here's this thing, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, how how can I make it work? Right? Whether it's a good pivot or a bad pivot, just keep asking yourself how and make the decision to go forward.
I love that. And shoot, we know that about the Marine Corps, man. Knocking doors down and going in first. That is it. That's awesome. Let me ask you this. There's a lot of owners out there. One of the challenges that they face, or at least that they worry about, is how the heck am I going to fund this thing and have the cash runway? Without going through all the details, do you mind sharing a little bit about that? Like, how'd you plan for that? Is it bootstrapping? Is it grants? A lot of people don't know that there's many options out there either. Can you
Yeah.
share maybe some of the things that you've gone after, maybe didn't work out, or the things that you did go after that worked out, whether that be, funding, loans, grants?
Yeah. So we were entirely self-funded and bootstrapped. I'll be, full transparency. It's largely me. So I liquidated some assets, made a capital injection when we
You're all
started.
in.
Yeah, I'm all in. Yeah, I
Love
believe.
it.
So when we founded the company, I invested in crypto a while back, and so technically the company is a crypto company. Uh, that relates to our phase 3 plans. So when we started the company, I transferred the digital assets into the company through a safe. So this allows the assets to sit on the balance sheet. And now that we're getting regulatory clarity, I think right now the crypto market's in kind of a dip down. But my long term thesis was, that the cycle would play out, liquidity will pump into the market, which we're beginning to see, or at least get uh, rumors of.
Right.
Um, and as that happens, I believe crypto will be one of the most sensitive assets to liquidity. So I'm expecting those assets to go up. And in the short term, also banks are beginning to accept those as collateral. So now I can collateralize those assets. And that's how we've been able to be as crazy as we have been.
Now, I'll tell you, I think you're a little ahead of the curve there. There's probably some that are listening to this and like, what is he talking about? And so I highly recommend that you go look into digital currency, usage based type of pricing models, tokenization. I'd recommend that you go research that. And I love that you're able to, and by the way, can that be converted into equity at some point? Is that how it works? And you mentioned the regulatory market. It's looking like, and it's pointing to, this is going to be a big part of the currency system in the future for sure. I think you're thinking the right way.
Yeah, I mean, when I first invested in crypto, that's when I really like kind of educated myself on the financial system. And yeah, just as various use cases have played out with crypto, I've become more confident in it as a technology. And I do believe like tokenization, I think that's going to be a huge part of not only the financial system going forward, but many of our societal type systems.
Yeah. Well, you seem very versed too around, like, when I challenge founders, I think having a pitch deck and having the financial models and your forward thinking plan is so important. Before we get there though, how do you support veteran founders? I've seen a lot of your posts around that in the communities that you serve. And what's your advice to them? Many may not understand the digital currency side. What other routes can veteran founders take to fund their business, their idea that they want to go and execute on?
Yeah, veteran founders have an incredible amount of access to resources. So there's IVMF, the Institute of Veteran Military Families. There's the PenFed Military Foundation. There's Warrior Rising. There's Vets to CEO. Uh, and me personally, I'm working with Melanie McCoy to stand up a veteran business readiness center here in San Antonio called VSource SA. But all those resources provide various entrepreneurial support, whether it's education, um, media training, media placement, um, marketing. There's a nonprofit marketing company out there that helps veteran-owned companies under 1 million ARR. It's called Victor and Valor. There's just like a ton of like where there. If you have the thought, Google ChatGPT. You're going to find a ton of resources. And if you're a veteran in San Antonio, just hit me up and we will take care of you.
Hit them up. I love it. So it sounds like you have just a variety of a toolkit there, right? A war chest, if you want to call it that, where you have things that you can work with. I love that.
Yeah,
Walk
that
us
can.
through. So, kind of going into how you pitch your vision, right? As
Mhm.
your maybe that's not only the clients that you want to serve or the brands that you want to serve as you embed, grow DNA into their system, but even those that are thinking about potentially investing in you. I know you're bootstrapping right now and you're self-funding, but I'd imagine there's probably a lot of interest. How do you pitch grow? Is that you first put a lot of emphasis on the mission, on the tech, on the economic impact? Like, what's your strategy there?
Well, we are just starting like the process of fundraising, and so I'm still figuring that out. Uh, but it's really what I found out so far from my current efforts is there's no like one set way, right? Like in one pitch, I may pitch like the emotional connection, like we're going to keep 8 million people per year committed to health and fitness. And then they're like, oh, well, where's the logic? And I'm like, okay, well, that changes the pitch. And it's more like cut and dry. Here are the numbers, bum, bum, bum. Like, oh, there's no emotional connection. I'm like, okay, well, damn, I don't know.
Which
So
one?
yeah, I think where I'm leaning is just like put a pitch together that the story that I want to tell, put it out there, and then go pitch that and find the investors that resonate with that story. Whether that's
Yeah,
like the pure
love that.
logic or the emotion or whatever it may be.
And here's what I'd recommend, right? I think in a lot of ways, having experienced this pitch and raising and all of that is typically investors are looking for the founder or the co-founders, right? What's the power? What's the unique story? I think you're spot on to speak about your story. You have an amazing story that's led up to and now what is grow and what you're looking to accomplish, and then getting into the logic. But I'd always recommend to people, I've seen more success when you have that emotional heartstring, before you get into all the details of TAM and unit economics and the raise details. And there's a time for that, but I really do think people also want to work with great people like you, Alan, and those that are watching. And I'd recommend you turn the table on that too. So those that you are pitching to, interview them as well, because when you get those hands in the cookie jar, you want to like who you work with. Obviously, there's a level of respect. You also want to enjoy who those potential strategic advisors are. But I love that. I
Yeah.
love that you're going through the process there. Can you can you explain Grow or Grow Fit to an investor who's never worn a uniform or run a studio before? As you're pitching this, to your point, as you're telling this story, how do you get them to understand, right, the military aspect, right? You work with areas within the Department of Defense as well as the fitness and wellness studio space. There's a lot of investors that just don't partake in any of that. So how do you get them quickly to understand those two sides of the business?
Well, generally, when the investors we're talking to now, we focus on the commercial side, getting them to understand the commercial problem around retention, which from a number value could be like $2 million per year for a larger gym. Um, in terms of the DoD side, it's they in place of retention, they call it readiness, right? They want their soldiers and active duty members.
It's huge right
Just
now.
so readiness and retention are the same thing, really. Like, how do you get people coming back and staying committed to fitness?
Yeah.
Um, but they just call them different things. But the military, in my opinion, has a much bigger problem than the readiness piece, because when push comes to shove, like the military can just be like, "No, you're gonna work out, right? Like this is what you're
Right.
gonna do."
You
Um,
get that tape around your waist and they're going to push you to some PT for sure.
yeah, yeah. So to me, the bigger problem with the military is the capacity of qualified trainers, which is something that we're solving for in our second phase, which is like a quality assurance, quality control, um, training proficiency tool.
Amazing. I love that. Now, it's pretty hot right now around fitness tech. What are you hearing? What's the chatter around it? How are people treating fitness tech? What does that even mean? But I've been to some of these conferences and it seems like the only thing people are talking about. So, how do you even differentiate through some of the noise?
I think one fitness tech right now, in my opinion, is just like the whole industry is just a bunch of hype. They, something catches like someone's attention, they hype it up for a bit, it dies down, then something else comes along. Uh, but a lot of those hypey items are around into like biomarkers and human genomics, and these kind of I would say higher end services that aren't really going to be used by most of the population. So on one hand, the fitness industry says, "Oh, we want to get the other 80% into fitness," but then on the other hand, they're focused on these tailored, higher end individual services like biogenetics and stuff. So how Grow differentiates is we are focused on that 80%. We want to create systems that create behavioral change to improve readiness, retention, not just in the 20% who already go, but the other 80% that have been disenfranchised or have yet to get into a gym.
Well, let's walk through that. Let's get into the weeds a little bit about Grow and just the end-to-end deliverable. Can you walk us through what you deliver to each one of these studio networks or multi-unit studio networks? What can they expect from and what's the ecosystem that Grow provides?
Yeah, I mean, we've built a whole platform. We've essentially built a platform that we would want as an operator. So everything from acquisition to space and equipment utilization to retention. And so tier one is like this market analysis insights tool where it looks at the gym's current customer base, and then tells them, and not just tells them, but shows them how well they're acquiring in their area. And they could filter by ICP, 25 to 35-year-old males making a certain amount of money. How well are you uh, saturated in the market for that specific ICP? and then they can use that to inform marketing. So far, we've lowered for our current customer, we lowered his customer acquisition cost by 50% using data, like
We
that
got
kind
to
of data.
pause there. That is so good because when I challenge people around their unit economics, when I ask for CAC or customer acquisition costs, but the room goes silent. So, Alan, can you walk us through that customer acquisition cost? It sounds like you've had success for your clients. Can you walk us through kind of the breakdown of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways to calculate customer acquisition cost, and you can include various marketing efforts in it. We were specifically looking at return on ad spend for customer acquisition cost, um, and we are just like much more efficient with every dollar we spend on ad spend because we're using the data of who are your members, how well where are the lookalike members in your community, and how can we target those ads.
So
Uh,
hyper targeting, I love that. And
yeah.
how is Grow using machine learning? You talk a lot about behavioral change. Can you walk us through what does that mean? And what do you provide there?
Yeah. So behavioral changes are tier 3. So what I just
Okay.
described was tier 1.
Yeah.
Tier 2 is the space and
I'm
equipment
skipping forward. I'm
No,
racing
no,
ahead. Sorry.
yeah. Is the space and equipment utilization, and we do other operational stuff like tailgating and missed uh missed sales opportunities at the front desk. So that's all like kind of the operational stuff. And then the
Excellent.
tier 3 is the individual tracking and the behavioral change, where we're integrating with wearables and tracking individual member behavior to recognize changes in behavior, and then depending on their risk and combination of factors, like their social network scoring, how well are they talking to other members in the gym, how well are your staff engaging with them, so they get this like kind of social network score, this behavioral tracking trigger event. And using all that, we can design intervention systems that keep them retained as members. And
I want to come back to the go ahead. Sorry.
that intervention system could be like they set a goal, and then they are actually doing the activities or uh, workout plans that adhere and align to their goals. So they get reward points issued to them without any staff intervention, and then they can redeem those reward points later, and then you can create challenges that you can issue to them. You can use those challenges also to spread out the usage on the floor. So if you know you have an incredibly high use period, uh, create a challenge that utilizes this dead space to spread it out.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just so much you can do with the data. It's like almost endless.
So you're actually navigating the traffic by gamifying, right?
Yeah.
And rewarding and creating this like loyalty reward, but behavioral, like you're saying, behavioral change. And sorry to cut you off earlier because I do want to come back to the equipment piece because now you got my mind rolling. Where, well, from a high level, right? Most studios and gyms have had the ability from a cardio front to go just through the audit log to see usage. Now, that doesn't mean you know who used it, you just know how much it's been used.
Hmm.
Where I've always seen the gap, and I know there's some equipment companies out there, manufacturers that are starting to get into the strength equipment, but it's still a big miss. You can't necessarily track the amount of usage that someone's using on stationary strength equipment, right? Or even the dumbbell racks or what have you. And so I find this very interesting that and are you doing this by somehow embedding the technology into the equipment, or is this through the actual user, the member?
This is just through integrating with the current software and camera systems. Uh, so no new sensor needed, no new equipment needed. I mean, that does not mean the gym may decide like, hey, they don't have optimal coverage with the video system, so they install like a new camera or two. But most gyms have pretty sufficient, that we've seen at least, have a pretty sufficient coverage with their current camera systems.
It's amazing. And not to go into the details, because obviously I'm sure there's a lot of IP included in all of that, but are
Yeah,
you doing it from a heat mapping? Is this a facial recognition? Like how does that work?
yeah. I mean, we do heat mapping. That's a like a feature or service that we offer, and tier two. Um, and we don't do facial recognition. We have specifically stayed away from that because it's regulatory and just kind of legal taboo, and not just regulatory and legal, but also kind of social taboo. So we've come up with, like you said, a lot of IP. We actually need to finish filing our patents, but we have quite a few patents to file um, around what we've developed.
Amazing. And then I did want to get back to how you're navigating the traffic throughout the studio, throughout the gym. As many know, I worked for a lifetime and it's a pretty large footprint, right?
Yeah.
Typically, though, in that arena, you have so many people clogging up certain aspects of each floor. And if you're able to, by gamifying it and rewarding, incentivizing, you can move people and spread it and then maybe even increase dwell time. But I think overall, what I love about what you're doing is you're getting people to act and do something, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to change lives, and people that are coming in, we want them to, and they want results, right? And I think this is a great way to do that. I love it. And I mean, this is probably a lot of data that you're gathering. How does your client deal with that around data security, data gathering, cleansing, all of that?
Yeah, I mean, at our core, we are a data company. And my co-founder's background is with healthcare data, doing large, complex data integrations and machine learning for the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, as well as like other areas. But so we take data, and us personally, we take data privacy and data rights very seriously. So we follow all the standard practices, RBAC, role-based access control, multi-factor authentication, data encrypted at rest and in transit. And the fact that we've built this system without facial recognition means that we're not creating any permanent record of storage of that data. So it's really secure. And then because we're developing for the DoD, we are ISO 9001, ISO 27001, and we're going for CMMC, which is cyber like maturity, essentially cybersecurity, uh, yeah, compliance.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we take all that very seriously.
I love that. Well, shoot. I mean, I think when people think about machine learning, AI, and all of this, right? That's one of the questions that we should be asking, even as you're looking for different vendors, right? Again, once you move past like who's the real deal, like Grow, and then you then ask about security, right, and compliance, and it sounds like you have a pretty deep deck there with compliance and security. So that's outstanding. A lot of the owners that listen to this, one thing that I hear, and I love this, is aside from the financials and the member experience, what's the most important, and I stand by this, is the employee, the team member experience and culture, right? And vision. And so I'd love to switch gears. You shared a little bit about this earlier, but what do you feel like as you're building your team? What's the common denominator around earning trust? What did you learn from the Marine Corps, or even having that engineer mindset? How do you earn that trust with your team as the founder?
Well, in the Marine Corps, and kind of my just general principle as a startup entrepreneur is do a lot of work, do so much work that like there's no doubt in my mind that I've earned their respect. And then, from respect usually comes trust. Uh, and then in terms of giving trust, I lead with just like I lead in love. I guess you could say I lead with trust. I give trust very quickly, because if I hold back giving trust, that means I got to slow down. So I'd rather get burnt a little bit and move quicker than uh, hold myself and the company back because I can't get over my own insecurities or paranoia. Like, let's just go.
I think we could all relate with that for sure, especially when it's, you're funding it, it's your baby, it's your idea. I could totally relate with you for sure.
Yeah.
That gets me to knowing that you want to scale and grow and make it a successful venture. That does require, and I've met some of your team members, they're outstanding, super talented. but doing it bootstrapping on a tight budget can sometimes, for all of us, bring some challenges. And how have you found to find A players that you have on your team today? Like, I think of Larry that I've gotten a chance to meet. That's an A player. He's a hard worker. How do you do that? And how would you recommend to those that are listening on a tight budget to go and find A players?
I mean, just kind of like the lead with trusting. Like you're never bootstrap startup. We can't afford to scout for A players. And even if we found like a established A player, we probably can't afford to pay him. So you really just got to look for those diamonds in the rough. And that means, putting yourself out there, moving quick, putting the trust out. And then one thing I would say I learned is fire quick, fire super quick. As soon as you have a gut feeling off, or if you don't have a good gut feeling, don't hire them. And if you have something's off where they're taking actions that aren't showing that they are trusting you the way you're trusting them, fire them as fast as possible.
Yeah, it's really good advice. And I appreciate you because that is like when we talk about the messiness and the dark side, that is not the fun part of being the founder, being the leader is sometimes you have to make those tough decisions, but don't wait, right? Because that can be, especially in a startup mode, that can be extremely cancerous, almost worse than when you have a large organization that can afford to have some of it for a little bit longer, but not in its infancy stage. So, you talk a lot about communities. What I love about you, one, that's what Grow is doing, right? You think about the different tiers. I think tier 3, and it's all about this social community aspect. And I think with all this technology that is now at our fingertips, we humans we have this thirst for more human connection,
Mhm.
community. What are some of the things that you do on your team from a ritual or habits that brings community together internally?
We were getting together quarterly for our quarterly meetings, and then trying to do an event. Nick is in Europe right now, so we've made that every other quarter. And we do like weekly stand-ups. I don't know if that's really a team building tradition. I guess like something we do that I think is unique for a startup is we still take the time to do like not a performance evaluation. We call it 3 Ps. So like looking at like what your goals were, what your goals are, and not just from a professional standpoint, but a personal standpoint to find areas that we may be able to align on, and then help you personally and develop in some way uh, that will also benefit the company. So we take a pretty good interest in our employees to make sure that we're doing er- everything we can to show them that we care about their development. And you mentioned retention of staff earlier. I think retention of the staff, the good staff that you do have for any company, whether startup or established, is super incredibly important.
That's great advice. And I love how you're focusing. And I think we can all take that from this is vision casting, development, career pathing is still important, even when, you're in a startup phase. It's so important because you have to retain those A players. I appreciate you sharing that. What is, you hear a lot about this, right? And I think you probably can relate with it the most. And for those that in the Marine Corps, it's a lot different than the civilian life. So what were some of the things that you've had to challenge yourself personally? Speaking of personal growth, was there anything that you had to unlearn as you became a founder of a private business?
I don't know. I feel like I'm still unlearning the Marine Corps 10 years later because
Yeah.
I very much still have like the get the mission done. Like, you mentioned like knowing the numbers and stuff. Like, yeah, I know the numbers, but largely I got myself in a little bit I had a conversation with a potential partner that we're talking on for this study, and we're trying to get a donation of wearable rings from them. And at one point I was like, you know what, money doesn't matter, like we'll make it happen. And I think that came across as like, oh, we got tons of money, but it's just my mentality from the Marine Corps is like, I'm gonna find a way to get the
Yeah.
mission done.
I love that.
So, so I'm still unlearning the Marine Corps.
That's the pacing. I love that. That's awesome. Well, walk me through this, and I want to respect your time. And this has been outstanding. I could talk to you for hours because I know you got a lot going on there, and I'm very bullish that you're going to be in a lot of the brands that I post about and that will actually be on this show. So I hope they watch this because they need to get Grow within their portfolio. Define winning for Grow over the next 12 to 24 months. And by the way, I haven't even talked about Grow TV. I don't know if you want to chat about that yet, if the timing's right, and no need to if it's not the right timing. But I'd love to hear about that too. What does winning look like in product offering and revenue and impact for you?
Yeah. So 12, 24 months, you know, I put together for a health and human services proposal, a 5-year like projection estimate. In that projection estimate, like within 24 months, I have us in 1,900 locations. But I was intentionally conservative in that estimate. I want to hit 1,900 locations in 12 months. In terms of revenue, I mean, that will go from where we are. That would put us at a couple million in revenue uh, just from just from GrowFit. But we also have like we're working contracts and stuff. So we have a 2.5 million per year contract potentially in the pipeline. Um, we got a lot of stuff going on. I'm
Yeah, it's a
working.
lot. That's exciting though.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that
working.
you have going back to it, you have a great team and you're focusing there. I'm telling you, for all those listening, you spend time there, all of this stuff, especially all this exciting things, they'll click. It always works out that way.
Yeah, like people want to do cool stuff, and we're definitely doing a lot of cool things across commercial, federal, healthcare. Like everything's just really coming together really nicely. So, long story short, the next 12, 24 months are going to be absolutely wild for Grow.
Nice growth for Grow. I love it. Well, I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan. I hope people reach out to you and we'll get to that here in a sec. But you truly have built a platform that actually changes behavior. I think the name of the game in 26 and moving forward will be retention. So that's experience driven, but you want to be hyper personalized and make sure you're cleaning up those unit economics like CAC, customer acquisition costs. That's huge. I love that we chatted about that. But the experience side, the social aspect, retention, improving your attrition, and I think that's what Grow is solving for. And it's a huge pain point, as you said, terrible stats that we've seen across the industry. And it's about time that someone's found the solution. So, Alan, great job. For those that want to learn more about you, connect with you, or even learn more about Grow and work with Grow, how can they get a hold of you?
For Grow, they can go to grow.solutions. That's GROE dot solutions. For me, my name on Alantheus, if you look me up on LinkedIn, it's the only social I'm really on. So, but if you look me up there, you'll find me. What else?
What's the origin? What's the origin of your name? I love your name.
It's a Greek.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's a great name,
Uh,
Atlantheus.
my
Well,
buddy,
that's great.
my buddy in the Marines, like for a long time, he only knew me as Thompson. And
No, the
then my,
train.
yeah, Thompson the train.
What's the
Yeah.
story behind that, by the way? The
Uh,
train.
oh, just because like I would set these big goals for the squadron or division or whatever I was leading, and everyone would think I'm crazy, and I would get it done, and they're like, man, he just doesn't stop. Thomas the train, so Thompson the train
Love
gets
it.
it done.
I love it. Well, Alan, the train Thompson, you hear it coming. He's on a path and he's helping us all out. So I
Let's
love it.
go.
Let's go. Well, again, too, I always like to add if you're a founder, franchiser, a multi unit operator who needs AI assisting cash flow forecasts, definitely reach out to us at valisights.com. And if you're looking for a fractional CFO, if you're looking at capital raise, if you need help with banks or you need help with your financials, uh, I'm here for you. So that's strategointel.com. And this has been an episode of The Owner Seat. I'm your host, Albert Ramos. Alan, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I'm excited for you all and I'm rooting for you. And just a heads up, all episodes will now be releasing every Monday and Friday at 8 a.m. Central. Alan, such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.